Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our masterclass tonight. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes to let everyone get situated and get signed in and everything. So we'll do a little bit of housekeeping before we kick it over to the gentleman at Huntin. Your screens and audio are all turned off, so we can't hear you, we can't see you. So no worries if you've got noise, in the background. No issues there. This class is being recorded, so there's going to be a lot of information tonight. We're going to try to go through everything as thoroughly as possible, but if something, you want to go back and review it, you're going to get an email link tomorrow with the recording. It'll be up on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and you can pause everything and jot down notes or anything else that you need to do there. If you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A bar down towards the bottom of your screen. That's the best way for us to answer them. If you put them in the chat, they're just liable to get lost. The chat kind of goes by pretty fast and it's hard to keep track of everything. So the chat is great. Like, people are already chiming in. I see we got some folks from Indiana, Arizona, New Mexico, all over the place. That's great to see. So with that, looks like we got quite a few folks joining in already. I'll introduce myself. My name's Jack Hedlund. Work here at onX Hunt. Been here about 5.5 years in a number of different capacities. Work on the marketing side now. And with that, I'm going to stop talking so that I can pass it over to the experts down there in Utah.
Hey. Well, welcome to the Cedar City office. My name is Austin Atkinson. I've worked here at Huntin for 9 years now and enjoy helping people find hunts, go on more hunts. And these master classes have been an awesome opportunity for us to get questions from you and to help people out. A lot of these turn into further consultations and we try to find the best opportunities. So I still like my job here and I'm excited to be with you tonight.
I'm Garth Jensen. I've been on a couple of these webinars. I've worked with the company now for about 10 years. This is what I do on a daily basis. I really like the topic of this webinar, best bang for your buck, because honestly, that's what I'm focused on. That's what I love finding, is how much can I suck out of that state for the amount of fees that I'm paying them on a yearly basis. And if it's not worth it, then I cut it. I mean, that's my ugly mug right there with that buck. That was a 1-point unit in Colorado. I was pretty stoked. It's not the biggest buck in the woods, but I was stoked to find him. But it's finding little stuff like that I like.
Yep, Jared Lyle. I've been here going on 8 years now at Huntin. Again, love what I do as well. And I would tag on to exactly what Gar said. I think all of us are realizing that as opportunities get a little tighter, we're looking for opportunities that don't cost as much and also that get us in the field more often. So we're stoked to present that material here tonight and hope to put more of you guys in the field.
That's right. So we titled this presentation, Best Bang for Your Buck. And that comes from there not being one answer for every hunter that wants to come out west. Everything is dependent based on where you live, your budget, and what your goals are. And so yes, the best bang for Garth's buck may be different than yours, but take it from us. We've studied a lot of these states. We've hunted in a lot of them. And you have to set your own priorities, but we're going to help you and hopefully give you some nuggets that you can hang on to about where to spend your money. If you have unlimited application budget, you should apply everywhere. There's nowhere that you shouldn't apply. Good, bad, whether the odds are good or bad, it doesn't really matter. But the reality is most of us do not have an unlimited application budget. And therefore we have to decide where my money is most worthy of giving me a return, either in the future year or on this year going hunting. And we rank all these states. The ranking we're going to use tonight is not necessarily for everyone, but it is ones that we believe you should consider for your own ranking. So we've ranked states based on how much it is out of pocket to apply. What do the draw odds look like? What is the return on investment? Meaning, how long do I have to play before I get a tag in my pocket? Other uses of licenses, if you're just applying in the draw, there may be some over-the-counter opportunity that you can use that license for as well in that same year. Add-on opportunities means other species. if you're spending all this money in one state and you only get one application for one species, that may not be worthy of it. But if there's a bunch of species, bunch of applications, it feels better. And so therefore we'd rank it higher. We're also looking at future potential changes. We were just talking about this before this webinar started, like how many states are changing the rules, changing the game, and we're trying to react to that and decide what that looks like in the future, both for ourselves and for the next generation. And of course, we got to take into account your personal preferences. For some of you, elk may be much more important than deer. Some of you, the exact opposite. Some of you are excited about coming out west just to see a 5-point elk and shoot it. Some people are really hung up on trophies, and if they're going to spend the time to drive west or to go to a different state, they want it to meet or exceed their expectations. If you're someone who lives in Colorado and you hunt elk every single year, it's going to have to be a special hunt to go out of state. You're going to want a chance at a bigger bull. That's understandable. That's not selfish. But if you live in New York and you've never seen an elk, let's get you to a state where you can have an opportunity and not worry too much about the trophy the first time out. So,
Well said.
too much info?
No, because it gives you a baseline of how we're putting these units in order and why we have certain states on here. And there's going to be a few states that you don't see.
That's right. So we're going to go through these rankings, kind of start with most important, or we feel is the highest ranking. Of course, if you have any questions on specific states or anything for you, hit us with that on the Q&A down in the bottom feature there on your Zoom link, and we'll get answering them as we go. So first up is, drum roll, Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. This state, the one thing I will say is we're going to have all these states on here as is. So we will talk about some future potential changes that could impact maybe where we rank this state in the future. But for right now, the one thing Colorado has, they have so many opportunities for elk, deer, and actually antelope in that, say, 0 to 10 point range. They have something for everyone. And it's hard to ignore the fact that when you pull up, and I look at a ton of these applicants and go through strategies for different members, when you look up and you say, okay, someone says, I have 10 points in Utah, Arizona, Colorado, and let's say Nevada. When you look at that and they say, what is my best odds of drawing a tag right now? Almost every single one of those species we're currently looking at, that's going to come up as Colorado, because they have so many opportunities, so many tags available, and so many different, like between rifle season, elk seasons, they have first rifle, a second rifle season, a third rifle season, hell, even a fourth rifle season. They have that same, pretty much that same grouping for deer outside of the first rifle season that spans from October to end of November. Mm-hmm. So you have all these different opportunities and these different avenues to put your application in for whatever suits your time frame that you can allocate for that hunt, along with archery hunts that are typical September issued, along with muzzleloader that's in September. I just really feel like that there's too many options in Colorado to ignore that possibility. Yeah. But as you said, if you're looking for a trophy class bull, something that's in that 340, 350 plus, maybe Colorado isn't for you.
Right.
It just might not work to your advantage to go ahead and apply there. But if you're just looking for an opportunity to get out and hunt, it's, in my opinion, right now the best, because there's too many opportunities from 0 to 5 points, 10 points for you to take advantage of. And if you don't draw that, the cool thing right now, you can still go in and you can still hunt over the counter, rifle or archery for elk, and they're unlimited tags.
That's right.
There's limited units that you can hunt with that. There's certain areas you can't hunt in, but you can pick that tag up even during the hunt. So that's a heck of a good backup plan for somebody that just swung and missed and didn't draw anything. You can still fall back and go there and hunt. And honestly, like with a lot of these states, pretty much every state now has a qualifying license you have to buy. Colorado's is one of the more inexpensive ones that you have to buy right now at $111 for a small games license. So it's a pretty easy barrier of entry, and it's only $10 to add on those other species and gain points in there. So yeah, I mean that's all the good things about Colorado.
Yeah. Couple of the bad things. It is a preference draw, and for those of you that have never applied in Colorado or bought a preference point, what that says is I didn't draw this year, so I get or earn one preference point for the following year. That gives you preference over all the newbies coming in that year. So when Gar says 1 to 5 points or 0 to 5 points to draw, what that means is they will award all the tags to those with the most points and go down. So there's no random chance for a non-resident for elk, mule deer, and antelope hunts in Colorado. You need to earn those points or pay the fee, get a point for that year for that species, and then it opens up opportunities in the coming years. Like you mentioned, at $10 a species, should you not apply for all species? Yeah, let's add sheep, goat, moose, whatever species interests you, because you have that qualifying license. It's worth the squeeze to apply for everything that interests you. But I look at Colorado as like, I must hunt it for mule deer as often as possible. Because I want to hunt it for mule deer, I'm going to apply for elk and antelope points, build up a couple points, and then decide to go. If I don't draw and I strike out across the West and other states, over-the-counter archery or rifle elk in Colorado is my backup plan.
And oftentimes I feel like over-the-counter gets a really bad rap because we hear all too often, man, there's too many hunters. It's just so crowded. I can't get away from anybody. All I saw was hunters. I didn't see any elk. It was a horrible hunt. All that could be true depending on who you are as an individual and how you consider hunting pressure to be impactful on your hunt. There is plenty of people that are going out in the field that have experienced the same type of hunt, and either for number one, they had expectations that were adjusted for that, and they expected to run into those type of things, so it didn't impact them as negatively as it would have if you were expecting a different result. But the over-the-counter hunts are what they are. They're an opportunity for you to go and enjoy your experience, your time in the field. And if you look at the success rates on a lot of these, it ain't like you're going in there expecting to kill a trophy bull. Like most of these are from 11. If you get 20% on a rifle hunt, that's a pretty darn good harvest success for an over-the-counter. And some of them have that. So take them for what they are. It's an opportunity to get out, have fun, enjoy your experience in Colorado. Don't get too hung up on the negative parts of what you hear all too often.
Yeah.
It is still called hunting.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it is. And I mean, I guess just the bottom part of that, some of the changes that they're going through right now, they do have committees in place where they're talking about changing some of the draw strategy or draw structure to where it's not going to be preference. They're talking about doing a modified system closely related to other states like Arizona and Utah, where they do a 50-50 split on max points, preference draw, and random draw. That might happen, that might not happen.
Yep.
The big change this year was, they were already liberal at 65%, 35% for non-high demand hunts, which most hunts fall into that category. They changed that for non-residents, or changed that for the state this year. So now instead of 65-35 resident non-resident split, it's a 75-25 resident non-resident split, which is a big change, but they're still pretty darn liberal with the amount of tags that they're issuing to non-residents. So I don't see that as a sticky point, and to get hung up on that. It is what it is. They changed the allocation, but they're still offering 25% of the tags to non-residents.
So if you're looking at this and I've never applied in Colorado, maybe I'll start. And you're watching this live, Tuesday next week, April 2nd, is the deadline to apply in the primary draw. So that's coming up shortly, less than a week.
And regardless if you're applying in the draw or just building points, you have to hit it by that deadline. They don't have a points only period.
Yep, you've got to be in. And it's much cheaper for youth. And I just applied my daughter there today. You save about $110
Awesome.
off the license right off the gate.
Awesome.
And they don't charge them for points, so definitely apply youth there. So still a good state.
Yeah. And just remember, if you're going to apply for like Rocky Mountain Bighorn, mountain goat, or moose, and you're going to buy a point, it's $100 for adults, but it's free for kids. So build those 3 weighted or those 3 preference points up. It's a cheap and easy way to do that while they're young.
Yeah, and they do transfer into adulthood.
Correct.
So yeah, you can get your 3 points out of the way super cheap. And then from that point forward, we typically do not recommend that you continue to purchase those $100 points. Instead, just go into the draw because it's going to require a pile of luck to draw one of those tags anyway.
Yep.
Okay, state number 2, Wyoming.
And Wyoming's a state that, if you're following hunting at all, Wyoming is making changes about as fast as any state right now.
It's true.
You know, from their sheep, moose, and goat allocation, they dropped that. They've just changed the elk distribution as far as their general license. They've separated that from a statewide into region now for non-residents. They've really blown up some of the prices on some of their draws. But that being said, it still comes down to opportunity and how long I'm going to have to apply here, in my opinion, in order to draw a tag. And elk now, I mean, you can make the argument, depending on if you want to pay that special license fee or the regular, you're probably 3 to 5 years in a really good elk unit where you've got plenty of public land, good numbers of elk, in fact, over objective on their carrying capacity right now in a lot of situations, and pretty decent bulls. For that, man, I'm all in just for the elk.
That's right.
You know, deer, they're struggling a little bit
Deer
on.
tough. It's very susceptible to winter kill, to bad winters. And last year they had a bad winter and lost a lot of antelope, a lot of deer. But the way I see Wyoming is you don't see the license fees on this slide we're showing you. We're showing you how much it costs to get a point. Yes, there is a random element to Wyoming's draw where you can draw a random tag on for most hunts. But we recommend, if you're planning of how to use your funds wisely and getting in a rotation where you can come hunt the West every year for something different, just buy points in Wyoming. Buy them for your kids, buy them for your wife, anybody that wants to go hunt there. Just over $50 for elk, 41 for deer, and over 30 for antelope. It's worth it because most of the draw is a preference draw, and you're going to need those points if you want to go in the future. And with the increase in the special license fee, which they just did, it's going to be more worthy to have more points built up rather than having to pay that special fee on the year you want to draw.
Oh, for
If you
sure.
get by with the regular, it'll save you a lot of cash.
And you look at those point fees there, you don't have to buy a qualifying license to purchase those points. They have a points only period after the draw. That's one that you got to remember to buy them for because it's later in the fall when everyone's busy planning their hunts. So just make sure you remember to buy those. I think it's July to September 31st, is that right? October 31st. So if you get those purchased, if you look at that, it's really not that much more expensive to buy those points, even though when you look at a $52 elk point, 41 mule deer, and 31 antelope, you're still paying roughly lower to get those points than you would be in other states like Arizona and Nevada.
Yeah, and it is important to note, every year I talk to somebody who has applied in Wyoming and think that they also got their bonus point or their preference point. You cannot get your preference point during the actual draw. You have to wait till the points only period. So even if you apply in Wyoming, you try to draw a tag and you don't, you did not get a preference point unless you apply later. So don't make that mistake.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of guys that have been bit by that.
Hundreds.
I know we had a question, do you have to front this license fee and pay for it? If you're just doing the points only, think of it as totally separate. You have to pay the whole license fee up front if you're going into the draw, meaning you have a chance of getting drawn successful. If you just want to buy a point, that's it. What you see there is what you pay later in the summer, like Gar said, and you walk away.
Yep.
All right, let's move on from Wyoming. Next, we're going to jump to a debatable number 3, Arizona. This is an expensive one. Now we're getting up to a qualifying license of $160 for an adult. It's expensive. $15 per species. Okay, that's on the cheaper side. You don't have to front the license fee or pay in advance. But how do you make a state that has so few tags available worthy of the $160 non-refundable license? And so that's one we will put an asterisk by and say this isn't for everyone. But Arizona continues to manage most of their, top hunts for really good trophy potential. So a lot of people head to Arizona because they want a chance at a really big deer, really big elk, or really big sheep, and that's what they're going for. But a lot of those guys applying just for that will never draw the way it's set up. So this state becomes worthy of your precious hard-earned dollars if you're willing to look at early archery elk hunts, late elk hunts, not necessarily the trophy, the best units, but a poor unit, if you will, in Arizona, in quotes there, may be better than a really good unit in Colorado as far as trophy size. So all states are not created equal. An easier to draw Arizona hunt is better than a lot of hunts in Wyoming if you get lucky. So consider that. Also consider if you're willing to hunt Coues deer, it's going to draw much easier than a tough rifle mule deer tag. So if Coues deer is on your list, or if you're an archery deer hunter, Arizona makes that $160 license definitely worth it because you can hunt basically an over-the-counter archery mule deer or Coues deer license, hunt during the rut every year, couple that with a javelina hunt, something else. So it's these additional add-on species that make Arizona worth it, in my mind, to spend that $160 qualifying license. If you're a youth hunter, 100% put Arizona on the list because it goes down to $5 for a non-resident youth license. So huge savings.
And they have youth only deer hunts as well, where the only people in the field during that time are youth hunters.
That's right.
Makes a pretty special occasion for them. And it might even be a state where if you live close by, like we have a lot of members from California. I'm assuming there's a fair amount of people from California on this webinar. If you live in central Southern California, it's not that far of a drive to utilize that license and go on one of these over-the-counter archery deer hunts. That's why I started going down there, is to mainly utilize the license I was spending in there.
That's right. Yeah. So you can get some squeeze out of it. They do have different deadlines based on what species it is. And of course, onX on the blog, we've got all those deadlines listed out for you. So definitely check the resources there and we'll let you know before a deadline's coming up.
Well, and Austin mentioned javelina, which is arguably the best species on planet Earth to cut your teeth on for spot and stock bow hunters.
Oh, yeah.
And you can build up to 2 points a year for javelina. Again, those deadlines are all on our website, but you got to stay on top of that. If you do, you can pretty much have a javelina archery tag in your pocket almost every year. And
the one nice thing is Arizona has that ethically hunting Arizona point now. It is expensive. I think it's $300. $350.
I think.
For a non-resident to go online and do that, but it's well worth it. That's a point that you carry with you on every single species. That point will be with you. After you've applied for 5 years, they give you an additional point, and that's 5 years for that species. That's species related. But now you'll have 2 points going in as long as you continue to apply every year. And so, heck, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah. We just came from Wyoming where we said only buy points until you have enough to go on the hunt you want, whether that be 1 year or 10 years. We go to Arizona, I'll say never buy points. It costs the same in Arizona, just $15 per application. So throw your name in the hat for a really good hunt, always. Don't just sit out saying, just building points. Well, why did you not want to be in the random draw for the same cost, trying to get lucky all the way up? It's like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't cost any more in the draw process. Granted, if you do get lucky and hit the tag, they'll hit your card for the tag fee. But again, to your point, why not swing for the fence and try to get a random tag?
Yep.
Well, and how many archery tags are there in say like a 6A? I mean, there's 700.
700?
There's a lot.
700 tags. If you said 700 tags in most other states in one unit, you would think absolutely horrific hunt.
Right.
Like going to be crowded, won't see a 6 point, everything shot out. It's still a pretty darn good hunt. To think that there's 700 tags in that unit, that speaks volumes about the population of elk Arizona has.
100%.
And there's still a legit opportunity at a nice 6 point bull.
Yeah. Let's go to state number 4. Still one of Jared's favorite states, maybe.
Old Montana.
The state itself is probably your favorite. The draw system is not.
The draw system's horrible, but the state's great to hunt.
We laugh because Monday is the Montana deadline to apply for deer and elk. And so we've been dealing with Montana every day for the last 2-3 weeks, trying to get applications sorted out, who's going to draw, who's going to apply, and who's not. So, Jared, you going to tell us how easy it is?
Well, first of all, you have to get a big game combination license of some type, whether that be a deer only, elk only, or a combo, which is deer and elk together. That is a preference point allocation system that's super complicated. We won't get into too much detail here, but I do want to stress that Montana is a state where either A, in this particular part of the big game combo license, you should bet on random every year and not buy a point at all. And those random odds, 60 to 75%, they're probably going to go down. It varies a little bit here and there because Montana specifically sets aside 25% of the tags to go to people with 0 points. So if you buy a preference point for that combo license, you're not in that draw.
That's right.
So you've got random odds, or you plan in Montana on every 2 to 3 years guaranteeing yourself a tag. But what that does mean is the first year that you buy that preference point for $100, you have 0 chance of drawing.
Yeah.
In year 2, there's a decent chance of drawing, and by year 3, that it's guaranteed.
So squeezing the most out of your hard-earned dollars, back to keeping the credit card below max so the wife doesn't freak out. We're kind of saying on your point year or your off year, say you want to go to Montana every 2 to 3 years, on that point year, just buy the preference point, buy your deer and elk bonus points for the limited licenses, and sit out of the draw. Save the money on your credit card. Just buy that point. Then the following year, right after, go in, apply. You have to pay the license fee up front for this general license for elk and deer. It's going to be over $1,300 to buy that, but you got an elk and a deer tag in your pocket, valid in any open unit state.
And 11 weeks of hunting season.
Huge season.
Yeah.
6 weeks of archery, 5 weeks of rifle.
Big season. So just plan it into your rotation. Get a group of buddies that say, I want to go to Montana and I'm going to go this often, and think ahead. By buying the point in the fall, go in the next year. If for some reason you don't draw, you'll get it the next year, but you can apply as a party up to 5 people. And we think the best squeeze there is the general license. And so, yes, you can throw in for the limited, tough to draw. It's random. Everybody's got a chance, but definitely get in and look at your onX and plan a public land elk and deer hunt.
And that's the one thing when you're going in, if you apply for that general big game combo, make sure and list a limited entry hunt to apply for. Because if you're successful in drawing that combination license, you're automatically eligible to enter into those limited entry hunts or those controlled hunts in there for elk or deer. So you just well throw one on there. If you don't get it, that's fine. Like it's not, you still have your general tag. So, but at least list one on there, because if you do get it, you're just upgrading your hunt.
That's right. Yep, so the deadline there is April 1st annually to be in the draw. So that one comes up early. A lot of people will apply there. They do have a partial refund option where you can return it for a refund if something else comes up in the fall. But if you miss the April 1st deadline, it's really hard as a non-resident to get a deer or elk license.
Now, because I'm not as in tune with Montana as other states, refresh my memory on, can youth buy the big game combo
If
the parent has?
Yep. If the qualifying adult has one, then they can go in and buy it at any time.
That's what I thought, and that's honestly a pretty big deal, because if you draw that tag, if the adult has it, they can just go in and secure a license and bring their kid along and they can hunt too, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a really nice benefit.
Okay, moving on from lovely Montana, we're going to go to Utah, our home state that continues to get more and more expensive. A couple years ago we were $65 for a non-refundable license. Then we went to $72, small change. Most of us didn't even realize it. Now we went to $120, and a lot of people are saying,
Yeah.
are you guys pushing the limit here? Because what happens in Utah, when you apply there as a non-resident, $16 a species doesn't sound like much, but we have a lot of species in Utah. And if you're like me, you're a little bit of a gambler, you see all those species, you're like, ooh, I'm going to add them all. Well, pretty soon you've added, 9 species onto your app.
We damn near got them all.
You're getting expensive, right? You're pushing $300 to apply for everything. So how is Utah worth it? Because there's very few permits available for non-residents.
Yeah. No, realistically, the only reason that Utah is on this list is pretty much general season deer. The way Utah works is they have limited entry deer hunts, which use bonus points. And then they have general season deer that currently use preference points. So the general season deer is awarded preference based. So if you don't have the number of points to draw that, then you won't get the tag. The limited entry deer, bonus points, is a 50-50 split. But realistically, the reason we bring up general season deer is because you can draw those tags every few years. There's a few units out there that take 6 to 7 points to draw currently, but very few. There's maybe 2 or 3 of them for rifle that takes that. But if you're looking at the limited entry side of things and trying to get a limited entry deer, elk, you name it, the unfortunate thing is it's 20 years. Like it's to guarantee it, right? Say there's a random aspect of it. So if you're applying, I would always say apply for those species that you don't mind throwing in a $16 raffle ticket, because that's what it equates to, is a raffle ticket. But the general season deer, like that deer down there, that was on a general season unit. They don't manage for older age class bucks, but typically speaking, most of the units that are enrolled in general season deer have the highest populations. So because of that, there's always going to be some of those bucks that slip through the cracks. There might be some inaccessible country in there. There's always going to be a few great bucks in there. But on average, most of those bucks coming out of there are 2-3-year-old bucks. But it's a good opportunity if you're just looking for a deer hunt. But if you're not interested in hunting average size bucks, maybe Utah isn't your state.
Yeah, if you're not going to use that license for something else, and you're not just concerned with having your name in for trophy species, it would not be worth the out-of-pocket costs every year. And it's our home state. There's a lot of hunters here. There's just not enough permits for non-residents to really make it worth it. When we're talking about best bang for your buck, I want there to be a light at the end of every tunnel in each state you're applying in, and say this investment I'm talking about of the past 4 states, there is light. There is, I will get to hunt if you set your expectations in year X. But when you start talking Utah, like Gar said, if you're not willing to do the general season lower class deer units, or you're going to use it for an over-the-counter elk hunt, it's not going to be worth it. There will not be light at the end of the tunnel.
And the over-the-counter elk hunt, remember, you don't have to participate in the draw to take advantage of that. Those go on sale after this draw takes place. You could take advantage of those at a later time because they go on sale. There is a quota on those rifle tags, but I mean, archery, here's a nice thing about Utah. I mean, yeah, we only give 10% to non-residents on these draw hunts, but when it comes to the general season allocation for elk tags, there's no quota. Yeah. Like whoever gets on and buys those tags first for rifle, it doesn't matter if it's resident or non-resident. It could be 50% non-resident and 50% resident. Yeah. As far as archery, it's unlimited. So if you're just looking, and I do get this question quite often, where can I go to just shoot a cow? Like I just want an archery cow hunt. Perfect state for that, because it's an either sex license for archery.
So compare general season elk in Utah versus Colorado. If I'm willing to see a lot of elk, shoot a spike or a cow, you would say Utah?
Far less hunters in Utah for sure.
If I want a chance at a bigger branch antlered bull, 3, 4, 5, 6 point, Colorado?
All the way. Yep.
Okay. Good feedback. Let's jump to the next state over, our lovely neighboring state of Nevada.
Nevada's one that I'm sure we've all been dancing that point system for a hot number of years. They get you. The one thing I can say about Nevada is they do have some decent deer hunts, which you can see Robert down there. He took this nice buck on a unit that arguably, I mean, I think, what is it? You have a decent chance with 5 to 10 points. You could draw that tag. It's not an easy hunt. That's probably one of the better age class bucks that's even going to come out of that unit, but it's going to be your best avenue to enjoy those points at some point in time. Because if you start looking at bull elk tags, sheep tags, antelope tags, like I would say more trophy oriented deer tags, you're talking a long time. I mean,
if ever.
15 to 20 years, and that's the problem. They don't have a preference draw. It's a problem and a solution, right? Everyone has a chance at those tags. But if you look down through a lot of the odds, even when you get to 15 points, if you're going after some of these trophy areas, you're still at 2%.
Yeah, it's just hard to make it feel worth it. Like I would only consider Nevada if you've considered every state before this one that we've talked about. You've tried to maximize there, and if you still got $200-300 laying around that you want to throw towards putting your name in the hat with no other uses of that license, then add Nevada.
Yeah, and that little picture right there with me and the cow elk, that was just this last season. I've actually drawn 2 cow elk tags there. If it wasn't for those 2 cow elk tags, I would have only drawn 1 tag in Nevada in 21 years. But honestly, they're good hunts. So if you're interested in just taking home some elk meat, fill in the freezer a little bit, I would say within 5 years you should be drawing a cow elk tag there. And archery is even easier than that. There is some pretty easy archery elk tags that you get like 20 to 30% odds after a couple of years of applying.
Okay,
Yeah, I think both Nevada and Utah, I would say if you're an archery hunter and you love mule deer, then they're really good values because of the general season deer in Utah, and Nevada's relatively easy to draw quality tags for archery hunters. But outside of that, it starts going down.
Yep. Garth, if you were talking to someone who wants to go shoot a cow elk and put some meat in the freezer, thinking about this state versus the states we've already talked about, could you answer off the cuff where you would suggest?
A unit or states?
State.
I like Nevada for sure because it is a separate point system. It doesn't use your points like Colorado. It's going to use your elk points. They don't have a separation in that. Arizona, as we mentioned, that's an elk point. So if you use them on a cow hunt, your points are gone. The cool thing about like Nevada, they have a separate point system. Same thing with Utah. They have a separate point system. Like had Wyoming earlier. It's a separate draw for cow elk. So those states right there, I kind of tend to lean towards because I can build cow points or I can put in for a separate hunt and it's not going to impact what I do with my points that I want to use on a bull elk hunt.
That's right.
But I really do like Nevada for that aspect. Is they've been fairly aggressive, maybe to the detriment of what some of the residents feel like the population is doing there. But I mean, I can say this: there's still plenty of elk out there.
Yeah. Just think that cow could have given birth to a calf, a giant 400-inch bull that you would never draw a tag for.
There was actually a better cow there that had quality genetics that I passed on and selected this one.
It's getting deep. It's getting deep.
Okay, let's go on to New Mexico. This state, it remains relatively cheap, and you would say, well, why not apply in New Mexico then at a $69 non-refundable license and just $13 a species? Why not? Well, realize it is entirely random. So there is no light at the end of the tunnel. There is no building points to hopefully draw a license someday. It's everyone is equal. So they separate the non-resident quota from the residents, and you go in with your name in the hat and you're as equal as everybody else that applied for that hunt. So do we apply in New Mexico? Yes, 100% we do. On the years that we hope to draw a tag. If you are really busy this fall or you got some trip planned, then skip New Mexico. It's not a big deal. We make that decision every year. If you've already got an elk hunt planned, sit out a year. You don't lose anything. They don't need your money this year, and you can apply the next year with the same odds you would have had this year. The only caveat that turns some people away is you have to front or put on your credit card the entire tag fee when you apply. So for elk, you're going to be close to $800 that you put on your credit card. New Mexico will hold that for 4 weeks, and if you don't draw, they refund you your money less the $13 fee. So in the end, it's fairly cheap, but you have to be willing to A, have a credit card to put that money on, and B, be willing to go because it is a random draw. If you get lucky, that's it. You go.
And if you're going to apply for oryx, aoudad, bighorn sheep, elk, ibex,
deer,
You better have a black card.
antelope. Yeah, it's gonna stretch your limits a little bit on your credit limit.
You'll be
Yeah.
pushing $9,000 to apply for everything on your credit card, but earn some points.
The nice thing is though, like we've always preached here, if you're gonna put that, like when you put that on a card, if you time it right, depending on when your billing cycle is, sometimes you can hit that. Don't apply for New Mexico when it opens. Like wait until not the last day, but at least the last week.
Like me.
Yeah. And that way you have a better chance of that being refunded back on your card before you ever even collect interest on that.
That's right.
It can be a pretty good deal.
So this New Mexico draw has already passed for this year. That draw deadline was last week, and we should have results here in a couple more weeks. But add that one to the list where it makes sense for you, depending on the year and what your schedule looks like.
You know, one thing to remember there too is people get caught up in applying for the best hunts in New Mexico all the time, particularly for elk. And if that's what you want, no matter what, then feel free to do that. But New Mexico has a pile of elk hunts that vary in quality across the state and quality of experience. And it doesn't have to be a never draw state necessarily. It is almost a never draw state if you're always swinging for the very best units in the state with the best weapon types.
Yeah, they do have a variety of options for sure.
They do.
Let's jump up to Idaho. This is a state that is talking deer, elk, antelope is fairly similar to New Mexico in the sense that there's no point system. It's entirely random, but it's substantially more expensive for a hunt license.
Yeah, Idaho is one of those that for me, it's hard to not. These random states are getting more and more interesting all the time, even when they have a fairly steep barrier to entry, simply because, again, you're not starting behind the eight ball, so to speak. Again, it's fairly expensive state, but as Austin mentions on that bottom item on the slide, there's over-the-counter options for black bear, wolf, etc. that your hunting license pre-qualifies you for. There's also some really inexpensive bear tags. There's quite a few zones or units where you can actually get 2 bear tags. And quite frankly, sometimes we encourage people to come out, hunt a bear either fall or spring, use that as a scouting trip for an ultimate elk hunt down the road, etc. So, and then obviously there's also the option on, is it December 2nd this year? Mm-hmm. December 2nd this year, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, all heck breaks loose when you're trying to acquire yourself an Idaho hunting opportunity on one of their, what they would call over-the-counter systems. I don't know if you want to say more about that.
No.
We have other master classes dedicated to how to get an elk tag in Idaho.
Yeah.
We can definitely help you on that. But
Yeah.
as far as the draw goes, that's in June. And if you already got the license for any other reason, apply in the draw for deer, elk, and antelope. If
Yeah.
not, I would not say buy the $200 license just for that sole purpose.
Yeah, I would point out there's a few hunts in Idaho. You know, it's a traditional muzzleloader state for the most part. So you got to go pretty old fashioned with your muzzy. But there are some pretty easy to draw muzzleloader tags for both mule deer and elk. We're going to see a lot. You're going to encounter a lot of animals, have a lot of opportunities to go send your smoke pole, send a little puff of smoke out. Hope you hit them.
Well, you hope it's a puff of smoke and not just a little cap going off at the end because they're all late season, colder than hell, and you're just trying
They
to
are.
keep that thing from.
But there are some really easy to draw units in that, and they're fun. I've hunted several of them.
That's right. Okay, let's jump up to state you might not have thought we'd put in here, but we put Alaska on here. And kind of an asterisk there, just like Idaho, if you are already buying the non-refundable hunting license, that qualifying license, which in Alaska that's $160, then let's look at some other opportunities and participate in the draw. Alaska is an entirely random draw state, so no point systems, no preference at all. But if you already have a hunt plan there for black bear, deer, whatever it may be, then when your license is valid, go in and apply for the draw for sure. It's not getting any cheaper to hunt in Alaska. So it's, if you've been saying, oh, we're going to hunt moose or caribou or something up there one of these days, you should probably do it sooner than later. And we've talked about that a lot, I feel like.
I think all 3 of us have 2 trips to Alaska planned this year alone each.
Yep.
It's a state we do believe in hunting and enjoying the opportunity, and quite frankly, they all fall in that unguided species to hunt category.
Yeah.
Tell Austin buys me a brown bear hunt, I'm going to be stuck down there.
We go up there a lot on the cheap hunts.
That's
The
right.
deer hunts, the black bear hunts,
Yep.
caribou hunts, and they are not cheap, but reasonable
Yeah.
for what the experience is.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, like that moose right there, that was a draw tag. You'd already bought the license. I mean, that was a draw tag moose.
Just
But-
threw my name in. Yep.
But that was one of those unguided. You know, there's a few more logistics, and that's the one thing people always have to remember. You always have to plan a little bit more or a lot more when you're going to do an Alaska hunt. But the point is, it's doable, and there's a lot of people that invest a lot of money to apply for moose hunts in the lower 48 with horrific odds that could put that same type of money and planning in place in Alaska and just figure those logistics out and actually go on the hunt.
Yep.
That's what makes Alaska special.
And it will leave an everlasting impression on you, no matter what the hunt outcome is like.
That's right.
You do not walk away from Alaska without memories to last a lifetime, every time.
Yep.
So we're gonna share some resources here. Just a reminder: Q&A box at the bottom. Jared and I are answering some questions, so put those in if you have them. Here's a couple of states that we can say forget about it, right? California. If you're a non-resident, California draw and getting the best bang is not worth it. Only apply there in their draw hunts if you plan to hunt general over-the-counter deer or black bear. Great opportunities for those two. If you want to hunt some hybrid mule deer, some black-tailed deer, or tons of black bear in the fall, over-the-counter tags, buy the license and go. But for the draw, as far as making a plan there for your future, forget about California. Same thing goes for Washington, probably even worse odds.
Yeah.
Only apply there in the special draw if you are a youth under the age of 16 because it's so cheap. Under $4 each, why not?
Yeah.
And Robert Hanneman's kid drew a goat tag and killed a nice goat there.
Yep.
But once he's 16,
Yep.
no more apps. It gets too expensive as an adult. Not worth it.
Yep.
And Oregon, as far as deer, elk, and antelope goes, pretty impossible to say I'm going to start applying there where it's a preference state. You need a bunch of points. If you're not sitting on them already, it would not be worth the effort to pay for that license and start applying there. It's just not.
A lot of times we get asked on Oregon as far as like the elk hunts that they changed and the deer hunts they changed for archery that were over the counter and now they're draw. Yeah, you could draw those with a low amount of points, 2 to 5, I believe, in some cases. The only issue with that, if you're from Northern California, by all means, because it's close to you.
Yep.
But if you live out more east or Midwest, you're driving through better elk hunting than you're driving to.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
that's where it gets a little bit tough, unless you're just focused on Roosevelt elk or black-tailed deer. Then at that point in time, a lot of those are over the counter.
Yeah, over the counter is fine to remember these 3 states, but as far as the draw goes, move on. So our recommendations of how you're gonna get the best bang for your buck, for your hunting budget, is first, let's set the budget. Put it in your budget app, talk to your spouse about it, hide the money under your pillow, whatever you need to do. But set your budget first, and that's for everything, not just your applications, but actually going on the hunts, travel, tags, licenses, fuel, everything. Then let's set your species priorities. Let's make a list. I find guys all the time that do not actually have a list. They have in their mind what's most important, but is a 6x6 elk on your list or not? Is a black bear on your list? You know, a coos deer, all these other species. Let's make a list, check them off, and set some years. You know, I'll go to this state this year. Let's make a plan. And then third, think about add-on benefits. If you've narrowed it down to, I want to apply in Arizona for elk because that's my state, let's look at the other species or other tags where you can use that license to its fullest. Otherwise, you just got a nice piece of paper or a PDF on your computer that says you bought this expensive license that you're never going to use.
And on that third one, like I would even suggest go out of your comfort level. Like if you don't think you're ever going to have any interest in hunting antelope, try and think a little bit further down the road in your hunting career, because your priorities might change. I mean,
Absolutely.
I never really thought I was going to like antelope hunting in general or so let's say sick of black-tailed deer,
Right.
until I actually did it. And then it gets to the point where you start shifting your focus, and maybe after you harvested a few elk or mule deer, maybe coos deer is going to be your thing. So just look at some of those other opportunities, and if it's cheap and you can add a point, just do it. And that way down the road, at least you're in a better spot if you want to capitalize on maybe hunting that species.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about antelope in Wyoming at $31 per preference point to purchase in Wyoming. You may not want to hunt one, but if you're an aspiring parent somewhere down the road, all of a sudden you're like, well, I've got 9 points for pronghorn, and I'm going to take my 12-year-old out, and we're going to go. That's a great first animal to hunt.
Sure.
So think outside of just your box a little bit. Think family, think future, think grandkids, children,
Yep.
nieces, nephews, you name it.
Yeah.
That's right. Don't forget all the research-based tools. I know there's been some questions coming in. How do I find a unit that takes this many points, or what are the season dates for this? Like, we've provided so many tools, but from Huntin Full, from onX, the research-based tools, all the draw odds, set up all these plans and start making some notes. There's really no excuses to not know where the answers are. You might have to dig through them and jump from some different tools, but we will make sure the answers are there for you, and we want you to find it. If you want to schedule a hunt, definitely, like we said, plan as early as possible, even years in advance. If you're just trying to now put something together for this fall, your options are limited. You got to plan early, especially like Idaho, selling over-the-counter tags the December of the year prior, and that's almost a year ahead. Demand for hunts continues to go up. Choose your friends carefully as you are planning this hunt, but even if you're going to book a semi-guided hunt, a fully guided hunt, like, we got to plan earlier than ever. So there's no reason to not start looking at it now. So we do have a little giveaway, right? As we're talking about how you're going to find this hunt and get your plan put together, onX is going to do a giveaway with us right now.
So I'm going to drop this giveaway link in the chat here. So if everybody just opens up your chat box, if you haven't already, and click on that link I just posted in there. It is only good until midnight tonight. So if you're watching this after March 26th, it's no longer open, unfortunately. But for everybody on, just click that link. We'll take a couple seconds of your time for us to get your information. And then I will draw those winners tomorrow. And then we'll send an email out to everybody that won, Wednesday morning. So you'll know within about, 14, 15 hours or so if you won that giveaway.
Yeah. So that giveaway is a full consultation with one of the advisors here. And so no questions are off the table when you get a hunt consultation. We take these every single day from our staff. They can be from, I want to hunt elk, how do I do it? All the way to, I've got 20 elk points, which unit should I select? And everything in between. No species are off the table, no states are off the table. So we try to help you out, consult you, and show you where to look for the answers that you need.
I would say West Virginia and whitetail's probably off the table for me.
And that might be off the table.
Yeah, generally speaking, we did get some early questions in the other chat about why we don't, like, Wisconsin wasn't highlighted, etc. We tend to focus exclusively on draw states. If it has a draw, for example, like in the Northeast, for Canadian moose, we'll cover that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But generally speaking, your home state of West Virginia, you're gonna have to figure that one out on your own. For now.
If you are an onX Elite member, you get a digital Huntin Full membership for free. Just come over and activate your Huntin Full account, and you get everything on our website, all of our e-magazines, all of our advisor research provided. That's a $48 value for free, just for being an onX Elite member. And if you want to upgrade to get our printed magazine, or to get unlimited hunt consultations, we'll give you a discount at those. But it's still a pretty killer value. You're talking this non-refundable license you're buying in some of these states that
Yeah.
you're not going to do anything with. You're probably going to throw in the trash. Our all access membership is much cheaper than that. So, and it's going to go a lot further. But I think with that, we'll answer some questions. We got some here in the Q&A. If you've got some more, dump them in and we'll answer away. So, Jared, you got a couple you marked here.
Yeah. So Garth, in Colorado, how do I get the concurrent tag for bear slash elk or bear slash muley? I can't figure it out from the book.
I guess concurrent tag, basically you have to check the regulations to do that, and depending on the season, there's a lot of those seasons marked in archery and muzzleloader that actually have a little bear paw in the regulations next to it, a little symbol. That would tell me that there's an over-the-counter tag that I can purchase in that area if I have that deer or elk license. As far as if you were trying to plan that, you could do that through the draw as well. Like some of those September seasons that are draw only or draw based, you could do that with like overlapping a muzzleloader or archery type hunt that you would have in there. But they do have some U5, which I call them U5. They're just U5 hunt codes that have second, third, fourth, basically, or first, second, third, and fourth, all the rifle seasons that you could get through the draw if they don't have that bear symbol attached to them. Most of those bear licenses or bear tags are going for 1 to 4 points at the most. So pretty easy to pick up, but again, it's probably something if you're going to plan on doing that through the draw, you'd want to plan ahead and just build some of those bear points, and it's $9 or $10. Sorry.
10.
I'm on 2023 fees.
They added $1. Hey, that was a nice hit compared to Wyoming.
Yeah,
A
no.
lot more gentle.
Yeah.
Okay, we got another one here in Colorado. Are private land tags available in the secondary draw, or do they go in the first?
Either or. Private land tags will be offered in the primary draw. A lot of times, some of those private land only tags will be available in the secondary draw because there wasn't enough applicants that applied for those hunts in the primary draw. But that's the only way they're making it to the secondary draw. If there was enough applicant pressure to purge all those tags in the primary draw, then you won't see them. But that's typically the ones you see in the secondary draw just because there's not enough private landowners to get all the tags.
Probably a little quick follow-up on the secondary draw. A lot of people have misconceptions about that. Can you clear that up a little bit, how those tags are allocated, Garth?
Yeah, so the secondary draw, the one thing to keep in mind is it's 100% preference for youth. So I guess what that means is if you're looking at the available tags in there and it says, man, this unit has 10 tags left over, if it's a decent tag or one that's been turned in after the draw, if there's 10 kids that apply for that from choice 1 to 4, none of the adults are going to get any of those tags, regardless if there's 200 of them that apply as the first choice. They're all going to go to those kids. So it's important to remember that when you're applying for it. The other thing about the secondary draw, I guess, I don't want to go into the weeds too deep, but there is more tags available on that secondary draw other than just leftover tags that didn't have enough applicant pressure in the primary draw. There can be some tags that were turned back in immediately following the primary draw. So a lot of times guys will call in and they'll say, hey, how is this tag available? Because it took 6 points to draw, but it's left over in the secondary draw. The reason it is because someone turned that in. And I guess it's not 6, it's 5 or less as a resident, but it could be 13 points as a non-resident, but it only took 5 as a resident. So again, without going too deep into the weeds, that's how a tag gets on the secondary draw. But one thing to remember is it's 100% preference towards youth. And actually, they do have a hunt recap report for leftover tags on that secondary draw on Colorado's website. So if you're just curious at all, like you can scroll up, you can find that, and then actually go down through and see, oh yeah, like the rifle tags pretty much went to youth, but there's a few archery tags that I can still get as an adult.
Snuck by.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have a question on here about the over-the-counter archery elk in Utah. When can you purchase those? So the Utah, the true over-the-counter archery elk licenses, there is no limit. And they will start going on sale in July. So once they go on sale, they're just open. You can buy them the day before the season. You can buy them after the season opens. The archery general elk tags. The rifle ones you're going to have to buy when they go on sale because there is a quota to those and they will sell out. And they go on sale starting July 11th this year. You got some more questions, Jack?
I was just going to say, I have had a couple people in the chat are having trouble with the giveaway link. We run into this once in a while. It's typically a caching issue on your computer. So if you had trouble, if it's sending you to the sign up page for future master classes, either there's kind of three options. You can try a different browser. So if you're using Google Chrome, try Safari or Firefox or something. You can try clearing your browser history and your cache. That typically works, as does using like a private window or an incognito window. Then that'll take you to the correct page. If you're not able to get in after trying those steps, shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com. That's our customer support email. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. If anybody has general questions for onX, that's the way to contact us. But if you have issues with the giveaway, shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com, and we'll make sure you get entered in.
Sweet. Any other questions you've had come through? Hopefully we've answered quite a few.
Yeah, it looks like you guys pretty well cleared out the queue there, so I don't have anything on my side.
Sweet.
Okay. Well, don't forget to reach out. We realize that we cram a bunch of information in these master classes and we miss some little nuances to each drop, but we really try to be the Cliff Notes version of state regulations. You will get lost if you go to Montana or Colorado regulations and try to figure out what to do. Please come to onX Research Tools, come to Huntin Full Research Tools, talk to us advisors, and we will not lead you astray. But if you're frustrated with the state or their website, join the club. That's why we are in business and we do this together.
And I do want to mention, we talked about the elite benefit. I posted the link to that in the chat. So if you haven't set up your Huntin Full digital membership for being, if you're an onX Elite user, you get access to that for free. Click that link there. It takes you through the steps to get set up. It's real quick and easy. And then you have all the access, the e-magazine. As soon as a new one comes out, I'm reading through it every month. So that's good stuff. And I don't just say that because I'm an onX employee.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody from everybody here in Cedar City. I think we're good to go. We appreciate your time, and don't forget the deadline's coming up.
Yep. Thanks again, everybody, and hope you have a good evening.
Thanks.